Radio Caro. What's going on? It's life. And that's the road. Life on the road.
Hello everybody over there and welcome to a new edition of Life on the Road, brought to you by the European service of Radio Caro on FM 95.4. It's my pleasure to welcome our African guests on the Pharaoh's land, where civilization started thousands of years ago. Hello sir and welcome to Radio Caro.
Thank you.
Would you introduce yourself, please?
My name is Kodjie, Secretary General of the All Africa Students Union.
Tell me about the foundation of AASU, please.
So AASU is the short form for All Africa Students Union. And the All Africa Students Union is the umbrella organization for all student movements on the African continent. So ASSU was formed in 1972 to serve as an umbrella organization to defend the rights of students both on the African continent and in the diaspora. So our membership spans in all 54 African countries, and primarily the national unions of all the universities in Africa fall under our membership. And so we really have a wide scope in terms of mobilization, in terms of organization. What we have done is that we have a headquarter arrangement with the government of Ghana. And so as per the constitution of ASSU, we're permanently headquartered in Ghana. So the government of Ghana, by way of subventions, caters for the administrative cost of ASSU. We have a structure that is representative across all the sub-regions. So we have sub-regional executives for East Africa, for West Africa, for Central Africa, for North Africa, and then for Southern Africa. That is supposed to decentralize our activities and to make it possible for us to fight for student rights and also to advance their causes and to represent them at the policy making level, at the AU level.
Yes.
We are the roots of humanity. We have a responsibility. Let's now be what we ought to be. Beat corruption with integrity. Optimiser et oublier. Ne regardez pas en arrière. Notre ambition n'a pas de frontières. Et cette terre de nous sera fière.
من اللحظة دي مش ممكن نقبل نتهاون في حقوق أولادنا. اشهد يا تاريخ على المستقبل اللي بنبني سوا لبلادنا.
Would you tell me more details about the ceremony of the first Maiden African Universities Olympics, and as expert who attended the launch event, I would be very grateful to get your valuable comments.
Wow. The Maiden Olympics, the opening ceremony, I would say is one of the best events I've seen in terms of organization, in terms of the ambience, in terms of the content of the program. So let me start by saying that one, we owe a lot of gratitude to His Excellency Abdel Fattah Sisi for seeing that this is important enough for Egypt to host it under its patronage. It's the first of its kind that we're having for African universities, and also to Al-Azhar University for under its auspices we've been able to have an event like this. So the leadership of Al-Azhar University also deserve commendation, and the AAU, which is the initiator of this event, and then we as the All Africa Students Union also as a partner. So if I look at it in the sense of what we sought to achieve for the Maiden Olympics, at the opening ceremony, we took a lot of speeches in terms of the partners who helped to organize this. Now, you would also see the students also display their talent in terms of the Egyptian culture, in terms of the solidarity amongst countries, because here you see so many countries coming together and putting up a performance that made it look as though all of them were coming from one background. Now, it's very difficult to achieve some of these things, so to put it together in a flawless manner for me was very exemplary. I mean, like I've said, I mean, it was beautiful. It's the best I've seen. Yeah.
عشان أفريقيا تستاهل لا يمكن يوم هنتساهل وهنواجه وهنكمل وهنكافح بإيد ملايين عشان أجيال كتير جاية هنخلص كلنا النية مفيش فاسد يعيش بينا مادام مع بعض سوا قادرين.
The message you like to deliver through such an event?
Yeah, so I think that my key message for this gathering is that when we put together an African University Olympics, the primary goal is to allow cultures to overlap, to find where we have overlaps rather than differences. It's more to find commonalities than differences, so that we know that we have a lot more in common than how we are different.
Yeah.
And so when we put events together, I always encourage the participants not to just see it as football or basketball, but to see the people that are coming from different backgrounds and how they can network. I've said that the capital that you can hold as a young person is not so much of financial capital, but the human capital, the network capital that you can accumulate, such that when you travel from one country to another, you have a network that you can rely on. Now, that's your greatest asset you can have as a human being. There's a shift from when you hold financial capital. Money can buy everything, but when you know people in some places, you can get a lot more done. So I always encourage them that when you have events of this nature, actually the bottom line is to allow networking, because that is your greatest asset that you can have. So the message always is that we should take advantage of these programs and these opportunities and to network, build bridges across the continent, have a footprint all over the continent, and they should shift it from just mere friendship into social enterprises. They should be able to come together to form businesses, to form idea sharing, peer learning, and a lot of these opportunities. And so if you ask me, I think that if we're able to achieve any one of these things, we would have met our goals.
How do you see Egypt as part of the African continent nowadays?
I, as a person who studied a lot about Egypt in school, I mean, in our curriculum, almost every aspect of it, you had the Egyptian pyramid, you had the Egyptian culture, Egyptian civilization. So growing up, you will have a lot of expectations of Egypt, because I mean, as a beacon of civilization, there's a lot more that you expect. And so growing up, I would have believed that Egypt would have been a leader on the continent because of its history and because of what a lot more of the whole world had to learn from Egypt. Sadly, if you ask me, I don't think that Egypt has played that role as a continent leader. But of course, that's beginning to shift again, because I mean, if you have the African Union chairman being the president of Egypt, I think that is going to put Egypt in the limelight again. And I don't think it should just end with when he hands over as AU chair. I think that Egypt has a responsibility to take up a lot more leadership role than it has, because I think that it's been more inward looking than outward looking. And for me, if I hadn't come here, there's a lot more that, for instance, I can't access on the internet about Egypt. So when we open up ourselves, we get the opportunity to influence a lot of things. We get the opportunity to make a statement about what we can do as a people, and particularly as Egypt, because I think that the African continent has a lot to learn from Egypt. Because I mean, in the short time that I've been here, I've seen a lot of things that, for instance, I can take back home and to recommend that, okay, these are some of the examples of the things that I think we can do. These are some of the collaborations I think we can have with Egypt and what we can learn from them. But if it is closed, we don't have that opportunity. So we need to open up That's the only way that we can lead. So if you ask me, I think that I would have expected a lot more in terms of Egypt playing a leadership role. And I think that, yes, it started, so it needs to continue, because by having the Olympics here, we brought a lot of students across the continent here. This is an opportunity for them to see and to take something back home. And it affects their thought processes. It affects how they view Egypt. And perceptions is everything. How people perceive you has an influence on how they deal with you. And the more you open yourself up, you erase a lot of bad perceptions that they've had by virtue of what they read on the internet, because they get to witness it themselves. And so for me, I think that there's a lot more that Egypt can do because of its history. I would expect a lot more. I may not expect that from other countries, but for Egypt, I think that it is more of a necessity rather than maybe something that can just happen by itself.
Nous partageons le même destin, les compagnons du même chemin. Avec nos cœurs, avec nos mains, la corruption aura une fin.
You have been listening to the Secretary General of African Students Union, or ASSU. You know, nowadays you are seeking to promote Pan-Africanism and also African Renaissance through several activities. So it gives me great honor to welcome all our guests from Africa and wish them a pleasant stay.
هنكمل مع بعض الصورة وهنبني السكك المكسورة نلحق وقتنا نوصل حلمنا من غير صعوبة من غير تعقيد.
And that's it for today's edition of Life on the Road, brought to you by the European Service of Radio Cairo on FM 95.4. From Mohamed Mustafa at the controls and Mona Hosni, have a lovely day.
Notre ambition n'a pas de frontières et cette terre de nous sera fière.
من اللحظة دي مش ممكن نقبل نتهاون في حقوق أولادنا. اشهد يا تاريخ على المستقبل اللي بنبني سوا يغلبنا.
Life on the Road with Mona Hosni.